All right, guys, it's time to get started. Sorry for the technical glitches, but we're gonna have to do without the Rocky music this time. Sorry. I'm Dr. Yachter. For those of you who have not met me, thank you for being here tonight. Are you ready to learn?
Yes.
Are you ready to grow?
Yes.
What happens when you stop learning? You stop growing. What happens when you stop growing? You start dying. Man, so we got to do something about that. So we're talking tonight about healing your broken brain, right? All right, so let's just dive right into it. Got a good program tonight, but we have a lot that we need to cover in a short period of time. So just going to dive right into it. How many of you are aware of people, friends, family who've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, dementia, memory loss? You're noticing these things kind of getting worse and worse as time goes on. And I've noticed it. It's hit some of my family, and this is definitely something that you need to have an eye out for. And many of you here tonight, because you have seen it at that level, but some of you guys here, you haven't. And what you need to understand is that we're at the point where this is like literally about an epidemic. Every 65 seconds, somebody's being diagnosed. It affects 1 out of 3 seniors. That's pretty much, you're talking about more than heart disease, cancer. And this is something that just keeps getting worse and worse. And what you're going to learn tonight is that even if you haven't been diagnosed with it now, you very well may be literally right at this moment on your way to developing that, or developing it in the middle stages. And by the time it's diagnosed, it's already too late. So my thinking is that the best way to avoid being diagnosed with the disease is to live your life right now like you have it, like you're treating it, like you want to prevent it. And that's really, how I want to start this, that the time is now to get serious with your brain health. Because with this type of disease, by the time the symptoms start to emerge, it's what? It's too late. So we all need to be on the ball with this. We know that we've been told by doctors that, you have heart disease genes, right? I mean, you guys have cancer disease genes that run in your family. Alzheimer's disease, early Alzheimer's is a very, very small percentage of the diagnosis cases. Much of this we see as late Alzheimer's. But there are genes that we have, particularly the APOE gene, and some of you have done the DNA testing in our office, and you can see these genes in there, and they're there. For some of them, we have that hereditary predisposition. But that doesn't determine your destiny. Literally, your lifestyle can turn on these promoting genes or shut them off. You can turn on these disease-fighting genes, these Alzheimer's disease, or shut them off. Same way you do with cancer or diabetes. It's like a toggle switch, but it's on your DNA. And you get to move those levers depending on how you live your life. Is that making sense? Yeah, so it's not your DNA. 95% of the time, it has to do with your lifestyle. So lifestyle, for better or worse, tends to be what we're kind of handed on a silver platter. In this country, you go to doctors, you listen to them. If they find a problem, their solution is what? Drugs. And if those drugs don't work, they give you another drug. If that drug doesn't work, you get testing, and if those tests come up any different, then you'll get different drugs. And then if you're on drugs long enough, you'll have side effects from those drugs, and you'll take drugs for those side effects. And so that's what we affectionately call the medical merry-go-round. And I'm not saying there's not a time and a place that we don't need medication. For some of us, we need to be on that. But you also have to understand that some of these medications can actually mimic the side effects of memory loss, dementia, and Alzheimer's. And, some of them you're familiar with: anxiety medication, insomnia medication, steroids, pain medication, chemotherapy drugs. Some of your blood pressure medications, like atenolol, metoprolol, warfarin. Any of you are on that right now? Prednisone, oxycodone, Benadryl, Prozac, Zoloft, Celexa, Lexapro. Have you ever heard of those? Those are all brand name drugs, antidepressants. So we know that. We've all heard the term chemo brain. We're all aware of the fact that some of these treatments definitely cause memory loss. How about cholesterol drugs? You aware of the fact that cholesterol drugs cause memory loss? I've seen that more often than not. And the shame of it is that cholesterol drugs really don't prevent heart disease or heart conditions. And if you want evidence of this, I'd suggest that you sign up for the workshop, or make sure you dial in the date for the workshop next month, the Heart Smart Nutrition. All the evidence is taken right out of the medical journals that show that statins don't prevent heart attacks, heart disease. Just as many people have heart attacks with low cholesterol as they do with high cholesterol. Did you know that? Yeah. And the sad thing is that it literally doubles your risk in many cases of dementia, and if you didn't take the medication. And so they also know in other studies that it affects the part of the brain that has to do with Alzheimer's disease. It particularly targets the brain and accelerates, the risk factors for dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So if you're on cholesterol drugs right now, then you need to ask yourself, what kind of question? Like, what would be a good question to ask yourself? Like, if you just learned that and you're saying to yourself, like, I'm taking that right now. I don't know who you are. I'm not pointing fingers, but if that was me, I'd be thinking like, well, that's pretty bad. Like, what should I do? Come to the workshop next month, and you'll find out exactly what to do. And if you can't wait until then, just ask me. Just peel my ear, and I'll give you some solutions as far as what to do to start building strength up. Make sure you got those pillars in place so you can do something else instead. But I honestly, I don't go around telling people to stop taking their blood pressure medication or their blood sugar medication. I mean, you could have some serious problems if you're not taking care of yourself. But if you stop taking your cholesterol medications, you could walk out of here right now and do that and not have any side effects. What you need to watch is the inflammation, not the cholesterol, right? Right? Okay, so we'll talk more about that. So another factor, again, which is going to turn on or turn off the expression of those genes is what? Exercise. They show obese people have a fourfold increase of dementia. 4 times, if you're obese, increasing your risk of dementia. How about that? Is that a good reason to exercise? Yeah, that's a really good reason to exercise. So I don't want to preach to the choir, but I am going to share something with you, Cal, that you did not know. And that is, I call out names when I see eyes starting to close. Did you catch it? Did you catch it? It's time for me to start having some fun. So the exercise, this is an interesting contrast, because some people consider exercise doing yoga and stretching and stuff like that. And while that's not bad, and it does have, good supportive effects for stress reduction and things of that nature, there are healthy effects of doing those things. It doesn't have the same effect as aerobic type exercise. And what they found is they took an elderly group of individuals and they measured over a year the elderly group of people exercising, doing aerobic exercise 3 days a week. How many days a week? 3 days a week. And it wasn't stretching or toning, it was aerobic exercise. And they had the same group, a control group, who didn't do aerobic exercise. They just did stretching and toning. They did that for a year, and they measured the outcome in the 2 groups. Now, mind you, people who don't exercise lose about 1 to 2% of their hippocampal neurons. The hippocampus is the part of the brain for learning and memory. If you don't exercise, pretty much just like every year, you're going to lose those brain cells. Here's what they found. The people who did the aerobic exercise actually grew new hippocampal neurons, right? But the people who did not, people who just did stretching and toning and yoga and stuff like that, guess what happened? They lost the hippocampal size. The part of the brain either grows or it shrinks based on the type of exercise you do. That's interesting, isn't it? So is all exercise created equal? No. And so you'll get different benefits from different exercise, but as it pertains to our workshop tonight, if you want to grow your brain, or something called BDNF, okay, so that's literally growth hormone for your brain. So that's the type of hormone that is created. It's like plant growth for your brain. It's like the accelerator for the brain neurons to actually redevelop, and that's what exercise stimulates. So exercise leads to the growth of the hippocampus, and that's important, that brain-derived neurotrophic factor. You get that from exercise. You also get that from coffee, by the way. That's a little bonus for you. So we don't just need physical exercise, we need what? Mental exercise. Yeah, and then, without a doubt, we all kind of know if you don't use it, you lose it, and that goes with your brain. So that's why, we do these workshops, and I open by saying, if you stop learning, you stop growing, and if you stop growing, you start what? You start dying. So we do a workshop every month. And I said next month we have our Heart Smart Nutrition workshop. If you're a patient of mine, you should have a workshop card. And every month we have a different workshop. And so these workshops, every time you come to a workshop, you keep getting something. You'll never come to a workshop and leave empty-handed. And you can never sit through one workshop and get it all, right? So keep coming to the workshops. Keep learning, growing. How many of you guys have been to a workshop before? Good. Keep your hands up. You've been to 10 or more workshops. 20 or more workshops. 30 or more. 50 or more. 70 or more. 80 or more. To 100. I know Denise has been to 100. Yeah, good. So give yourself a round of applause for that, because that means commitment. That means a commitment. You're a lifelong student, and there's something to be said about that, and especially when it comes to brain health. It'll keep you learning and growing, and puzzles, Sudoku, all these things mentally stimulating. Your brain is a muscle, isn't it? Just like anything else. So here's also something that's important for the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is the growth hormone for the neurons, for growing new brain cells, and that is something called sleep. Very often we are deprived of sleep, and sometimes we can help it, sometimes we can't. Sometimes it's life, sometimes it's lack of discipline. Everybody's a little bit different. But a proper night's sleep has the ability to actually put your brain through a wash cycle. A wash cycle, yeah. So 7 to 8 hours is best. Everybody's different. I know some people who could go on sleep for 3 hours, 4 hours, but it's not very healthy. It's not good for your brain. It's not good for your brain health. And a consistent sleep schedule is really important also. Going to bed the same time every night, waking up the same time every morning, regardless of the day of the week, is really, really healthy for your body and your brain. Did you know that? Yeah. You go to sleep different times, wake up different times, not as good. It throws your body off rhythm. And also, studies have shown a cave-like environment for your sleeping, where it's cool and dark. Get the air down to at least 72. You ever check into a hotel and it's like 65 degrees in the room? They do that for a reason, right? So a lot of people get a better night's sleep when it's very cold in the room. So, snuggle up, put some extra blankets on, and shut the shades. Make sure there's no light coming in, and see how you do with that, because that's the way it's supposed to be done. Also, make sure that you're not watching TV. Don't sit there with an iPad over your head right before you close your eyes. Or you're watching TV right into the last minute, and then you turn the lights off. You will not sleep very well. You'll probably find yourself getting up several times during the night. It scrambles your brain. It's not good for your brain. A lot of research out on that. And then the other thing is, you don't want to eat right before you go to bed. The time, we have some guilty parties here, so it wasn't me. I didn't do it. But when you're sleeping, that's the time for your body to rest. It's time for your brain to regenerate. And when you're digesting food, all the energy is diverted for that. So when you're sleeping, you don't want to rob your body of healing energy, right? So at least 2 to 3 hours. Not to mention, that's the time for your body to get into fat burning. You don't want to sabotage that. Leave yourself 2 to 3 hours minimum before you go to sleep. And then, of course, stress management. How many of you guys have stress in your life? I know I do. How many of you guys? No, I don't. Bruce is saying no. I don't have stress. I give stress.
I give stress.
Yes. So when you have stress, it causes different hormonal reactions in your body, right? So what happens? You have this thing called cortisol going up, and when cortisol goes up, it takes something else called insulin up, and when insulin goes up, you start storing fat. You become fatigued, you become tired, it throws your thyroid off, right? This whole mess of you going downhill with your energy, your weight going up, and your brain starting to shrink. Your brain degenerates when cortisol goes up. So if you can't manage your stress, you're not going to allow these organs in your hormonal system in your body to heal. Is that making sense? So everybody's got stress, but different people respond differently to stress. Chiropractic adjustments help your body respond to stress better. But that's not to say that we can't have things that we do in our schedule that can help us manage it as well, right? So, it increases the risk of brain shrinkage, memory loss. You double your risk of Alzheimer's disease when you're under chronic stress. How many of you guys are aware of that? How damaging and devastating stress is to your brain and to your health. It can contribute to and cause all types of degenerative disease, least of which is Alzheimer's. It raises your blood sugar, can contribute to diabetes. Lord knows we know it causes heart disease, and what else? Cancer. and increases your risk of COVID because you're tanking your immune system. So what if we were to just get a hold of this thing and build into our schedule maybe some of these rituals that can help us help ourselves in some way, shape, or form? What would that look like? Well, have a morning ritual. Read, pray, exercise. Does exercise help to relieve stress? Yes. Does reading in the morning, something mentally or spiritually nourishing, help to relieve your stress? So that's what I do every single morning. That's my ritual. I wake up, I sit there, I pray, I read the Bible, and then I exercise. I call that my spiritual triathlon, giving your first fruits to the Lord. What does that say right there? In Psalm 37:7, it says, rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. We live in a world that wants everything and we want it when? Right now. Yeah, right now. Rest. Why rest? I'll rest when I'm dead. No, that's not good advice. That's not good advice. You're going to kill yourself with that philosophy. That's why the Bible is your handbook. It's your user's manual. And if you read it a little more deeply and you understand it and you actually try it and listen to it, you'll see life goes a little bit easier. And thank goodness I've gotten the habit of reading the Bible. It is a ritual, but I do it now because I know I'm supposed to do it. I know it's good for me. And I also, I'll go to church on Sundays, I'll go to church on Wednesdays, and we're in the habit of praying. So that's like my go-to response. So I got a little story for you. I was under my car this weekend changing the exhaust. And, some of you guys know I race on a racetrack. I have a 20-year-old car, so I beat it up, and it needs maintenance. And it may not be very doctor-like for me to get grease under my fingernails, but that's what I like to do. So I'm under the car, and I'm taking the exhaust manifold off, and one of the bolts breaks. And so there's a bolt stuck in my engine, and I can't get it out. It won't come out. So I'm like, well, that's not good. So I go on the threads and I read online, what are you supposed to do? Well, you get a blowtorch, you heat it up, get a vice grip, start turning it, and I try all these things to no avail, right? And then just metal shavings and filings falling on my head like snow. And it's just like, it's not working. The whole job should have took me an hour, and I'm working 2 hours trying to get this one stinking bolt out. I called my friend Joey, and he told me to weld a nut on there, and he's doing. I was like, I'm cooked. I'm done. There's no way. He's like, try this, this, and this. I'm like, I tried it already. I tried it 10 times, and it's not working. And he's like, you got anything else? I was texting all of my other track rat friends, and they were all telling me the same thing. Everything I was already doing. I'm like, tell me something different. I've done it all already. And so I just texted back. I'm like, okay, thanks. I'm done. And then I'm walking back. I'm shutting everything down, like ready to give up. And I just sat there and I said, wait a second. I had a big smile come over my face. I said, Lord, you've helped me before. You've come through for me before. You know you can do this. If you want to, you could get this bolt right out for me. And I had a big smile on my face, like I know. I know the peace was there. Like, I know you can do this. Just like, if you want to, you can help me right now. And I know you can if you want to. And I just prayed, like, if it is your will, help me. And you know what happened? I put the blowtorch on it, I put my vice grip on it one more time, and guess what happened? Ah, it's turning! Oh my goodness, it's turning! Oh, I can't believe it, it's turning! Ah! That's my default, right? So it's not everybody's default, but the more faith muscles you use, the more you could flex it, and the more you're ready to flex it, and the more you're ready to have God go to work for you when you need it. Because if you do it yourself, you don't need him. But the Bible says it's impossible to please the Lord without what? Faith. That's why this is so important with managing your stress, because you can't do it. He can. Unplug, midday, take 15 minutes, give your brain a rest. You ever notice how you just need to get out from behind the computer? You just got to get out. Just go get some fresh air, some sunshine. Like, my brain just gets scrambled sometimes sitting inside in front of a computer. That's not me. I don't like to do that all day. Do you? When I go out and I go for a brisk walk, I get in the sun. I did that today. Right before I was going through the PowerPoint, I just went out in the sun, just like 5 minutes. And you know what I felt when I went outside? I took my dog for a walk, and the sun was just beaming on me. And it was just like, wow, man, that sun feels so good. So good. We were meant to be outside. You know, we were. And we sit inside in front of a computer. We're locked down. We got just all this confinement lately. It's just abnormal. It's not good for our health. Spend time with family and friends. Is there anything more important than your relationships? Anything? No. That's what we're wired for. So we need more of that. We need more of that for your body and your brain health. Lord knows, right? So let's shift gears here and talk about what we can do to get to the cause of the damage that we're causing at a cellular level. So understand that inflammation causes cellular degeneration, not just in your brain, but in your body as well. So inflammation equals brain degeneration. There's three main things nutritionally that we do to sabotage ourselves at a cellular level. There's three things. How many things? Three. First one is bad fats. Bad fats cause inflammation. Bad fats are literally ubiquitous. They're everywhere in everything. So same thing with sugar and same thing with metals and pesticides. These bad fats, margarine, synthetic butters, country crock. You know, we're all used to doing it because that's what our doctors told us to do to reduce heart disease, right? Turns out it causes heart disease. Cottonseed oil, soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, all these different oils. Be really careful because this is what's causing our brain to go on fire and our body. Rampant inflammation. Do you know why we do the C-reactive protein test? How many of you guys have watched the videos and have had a finger prick test where we take your blood and we look for C-reactive protein? Because that helps us measure how much inflammation that you have rampant in your body. Okay, so this is a main culprit for brain degeneration, which leads to cognitive decline, dementia, and eventually Alzheimer's. We have to get to the cause of this. The bad fats, the sugars, and what else? Toxins. So the big question is your brain on fire? Turn to your neighbor, ask him, is your brain on fire? Where are these trans fats coming from? All these different foods. Look, who here likes chocolates and wafers? I gotta get me some of that sweet stuff. Why are you looking at me, Wanda? Shortening, margarine, ice cream, biscuits, cookies, cakes, breakfast cereals, right? Burgers, breads, buns, pastries, pizza, fried chicken, french fries, trans fats, all these bad fats, polyunsaturated, like all these saturated fats, trans fats, the cottonseed oil, all the canola oil, the vegetable oil, right? Partially hydrogenated fats. Look at the labels. If you read the labels, if there is a label, sometimes you don't get the privilege of having a label on your food, but if there is a label, look at that and it'll tell you if there's something in there that's going to accelerate your risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. But then in some of these other things, like look at that box of popcorn. Would you suspect that's going to be unhealthy for you? For goodness sake, it's just corn. It's just corn. Well, yeah. Look at the label and look at the trans fats in that popcorn. And then you have, peanut butter where, if you have organic peanut butter, that's okay, as long as it's not dry roasted. If it's just organic peanut butter, freshly made, that might be good. But if you get it from a jar and you read the label and it's got those trans fats in it, NG, no good. What do you see down there? You got fajitas. And you got your steak and your vegetables. And while you don't have any carbs in there, which would seem like a good meal, what are they frying all that in? What are they stir frying all that in? Vegetable oil. Who knows? It's a mystery oil. I guarantee it's not extra virgin olive oil or coconut oil or avocado oil, right? When you go to a restaurant, there's cost containment in there. So they use whatever oil they can as cheaply as possible to make it taste as good as possible, right? Oh, yeah. So you have to stand guard there. So we have to have less of the bad fats and more of the good fats. What do you see in that picture? Extra virgin olive oil. What else? Avocados, coconut, lots of nuts, olives, fish. So these are the good fats, and then you have your supplements, which you can. It's really a good idea to get in there to add to your foods as far as getting good fats into your body and your brain, because your cells in your body and your brain need EPA and DHA to regenerate the cell membrane. Your brain cells basically your brain is made up of DHA. A vast majority of your brain is made up of the DHA. So the EPA DHA capsules are really important for that. That's an important fat that you need to have part of your daily diet. Journal of Alzheimer's Disease, buildup of toxic proteins in the brain. So this is important from a Alzheimer's journal. They said that older people who load up their plates with carbohydrates have nearly 4 times the risk of developing cognitive impairment. And so you know what cognitive impairment is. It's that stage right before dementia, and then dementia leading into Alzheimer's disease. So this is what they're finding is cognitive impairment is now something that they're terming type 3 diabetes. Type 3 diabetes. All right, so type 2 diabetes you guys are aware of, right? Elevated blood sugar, you have yourself a disease, a condition diagnosed, but if it's there long enough and it starts to affect your brain, it goes from type 2 diabetes to type 3 diabetes. Got that? So, and it causes the entanglement of these proteins and certain proteins and carbohydrates, the entanglements of something called neurofibrils inside your brain. So you can see the atrophied shrinkage of the brain on the left, and you see the darkened parts of the brain there. That's what that is. It's called glycation, and that comes from mixing, certain proteins and carbohydrates together for many, many years. And that's what the Alzheimer's journals, many of them are showing right now. So your probability, they said, becoming a diabetic doubles your probability of Alzheimer's disease. It what? Doubles your risk of it. So what's a good test to look for to see if you're on track for developing Alzheimer's disease? It's look at your A1C. What's measuring your blood sugar over long periods of time? Your A1C, right? So if you've got elevated sugar, elevated hemoglobin A1C, that means things are working overtime in that sugar department, and you're on track for full-blown diabetes. If you look at this, researchers looked at MRIs over a 6-year period of time to determine which lab tests correlated best with brain atrophy. When they compared the degree of brain tissue loss in those individuals with the lowest A1C to those having the highest A1C, the brain loss in those individuals with the highest A1C was almost double. Did you get that? So the higher the A1C, the higher your risk of Alzheimer's disease. So what's the most important test to look for? A1C is a pretty good predictor of whether or not a person is not just diabetic, but also Alzheimer's disease. So that's really important. Wouldn't you agree? Okay. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, you're still awake. That's good. So what can we do to balance our blood sugar and actually help support good brain function? Coffee. Now, I'm not saying you have to have coffee. I'm just saying if you do coffee, you can actually ring the bell right now and say, woohoo! Yes, finally, some good I hear about this after all this naysaying. And we're not talking about your favorite, brand like Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks that's loaded with pesticides and herbicides and stuff like that. We're talking about mountain grown, Blue Mountains, organic, stuff like that, like the good coffee, the organic coffee, has amazing benefits, antioxidants, magnesium, chromium, and zinc, which helps to stabilize your blood sugar. Okay, so there are healthful benefits. It controls your blood sugar. It has fat-burning effects. Which is another bonus. And it enhances also the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which helps to make what? New healthy brain cells. So I did this over, a period of time. They had a small study that was done, and they found that midlife coffee drinkers had lower risk for dementia and Alzheimer's later in life compared to those who drink no or little coffee. So the lowest risk was found with the moderate coffee drinkers, people who only drank 3 to 5 cups a day. I read that, I'm like, what? 3 to 5 cups? That's moderate? Is that moderate? I don't I don't know. So that means we got a lot of leeway to go. If you have 1 or 2 cups a day, I would consider that moderate. And I think you'll still get the blood sugar stabilizing benefits, and you'll also get the neurotrophic benefits of it also. So just everything in moderation, like they said. Everything in moderation. Right, Denise?
Yes.
All right. So we need to kill the sugars before they kill you. Right. Because the sugars drive inflammation, insulin resistance equals type 3 diabetes, and type 3 diabetes equals Alzheimer's. So you have to be able to identify the stuff, the more obvious sugars that we're talking about, not the Coke and the drinks and all that, this chocolate, you know that. That's not the simple sugars. But these, the breads, the potatoes, the cereal, the rice, the pasta, the high sugar fruits like bananas, oranges. I mean, they all have healthful benefits and nutrients at some level. But what are they doing to your sugar? They're what? They're elevating it. So they're driving everything that we're talking about tonight that ends in a bad story. So we don't want a bad ending to this. So if you're running high A1C, if you're overweight, if you've got blood sugar issues, if you're just trying to lose weight, then you need to get a hold of this. If you really want to see results, and I want to challenge you tonight because many of you have been to workshops before, and you like learning, you like growing, Chris, right? You like continuing to learn new things. I mean, you chuckle at, they just gave themselves away. So anybody who chuckles like that, like he caught them sleeping. So you're here and you're learning, but really what's more important than learning? It's applying. And so my hope is that, when you leave here tonight, you actually are leaving here with something that you know that you need to change, right? Maybe there's something that you just haven't done that we can address here at the office. And tonight I'm going to give you the opportunity to take that step, to peel back another layer. You're doing well, but the question is, what else can we do to get you higher up on that climb to maximum and optimal health? Is that making sense?
Yeah.
So start with something like this, having less of this. Now, if I told everybody here, no more carbs, that wouldn't probably go over too well, but I can actually reasonably say, have less of it, right? Let's have less of it. Start having less of it, and maybe, look forward to the day where you can have a carb day. So for most of my week, I don't like when my pants get tight. I'm not buying new pants. I want to be on the same buckle, and I'm going to suffer until I get comfortable in my pants. So no carbs for me. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but Friday I'm going to Vito's and getting my 2 slices of pizza. Pepperoni, sausage, and a Greek salad. And, so Saturday night I had a little bit of rice, and I mean like literally maybe a quarter of a cup, just a little bit with my stir fry. So there's a time and a place to do it, but not every day. Not every day, unless you want to continue to have and enjoy the same disease and problems that you're having right now. Insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result, right or right? So we need to start doing something different. looking at these things, the juicy juice, high fructose corn syrup, the tomato ketchup, high fructose corn syrup. Unless you buy something that says no high fructose corn syrup, you're getting high fructose corn syrup, which is sugar on steroids, right? Yeah. And some of these, breakfast bars like fruit bars, you think you're getting something healthy, especially with the brilliant, beautiful marketing, and it looks healthy on the box. But I challenge you to read the ingredients. And what you're going to see is 60 ingredients in there, and you can only pronounce 3 of them. The other 57 were made in a laboratory, and it's filled with all types of sugar derivatives, synthetic sugars, which are worse than sugar, cause more of a hormonal disruption, and then the trans fats and the bad fats. Don't be deceived by the box. Read the labels. Even the cereals. You would think Cheerios or some of these muesli, again, yes, they have healthful benefits, but what are they doing to your sugar? All raising it up. There's better ways to start your day than with the traditional grains. I can promise you that, and I'll share that with you. So if you want to stop the brain atrophy and move toward a brighter mind and a healthier future, you have to transition from the picture on the left to the picture on the right. What is missing from the picture on the right? What's missing from the picture on the right? Carbs is like you do have carbs there, but what do the carbs come in the form of? Very good, vegetables. What else? Low sugar fruits, right? So your energy comes from there. What else? Where else is your energy coming from besides the carbs? Fats. Very good. Which gives you more energy, the carbs or the fats? Fats. Very good. Fats will give you much better energy and much longer lasting energy and much better for your brain. So you don't need those complex carbs. You will survive just fine without them. And then you have your meat sources, which obviously you want to get organic, grass-fed. Does a porterhouse or a ribeye steak have fat in it? Sure does. Lots of it. And if you can get one that's grass-fed, I would say that's okay every once in a while. Same thing with your organic, chicken and your fish. As long as it's not farm-raised, you're on the right track. But you see, this is what is referred in many circles to as a paleo diet. You can call it whatever you want, but if you really want to see spectacular changes in your health in a very short period of time, you transition away from this toward that, and all of a sudden what happens is your body just unloads like 20 pounds that it doesn't need anymore, right, Ricardo? It just goes bye-bye. I didn't even try. It goes bye. Your body just starts to incinerate fat. Your brain fires on all cylinders. Your blood pressure starts stabilizing. Your blood sugar starts stabilizing. You get to get off medications, and know that you're moving away from sickness and disease and toward a healthy future to where you can enjoy your family, your loved ones, do all the things that you like to do. Just keep that picture and keep moving towards it. And keep coming back to every workshop. Every workshop you do just one little thing more, and before you know it, you're doing more of it than you think. And that's how it works. So just a couple more supplements that'll help with brain health and reducing inflammation. Curcumin, if you didn't know that, it comes from the Indian spice turmeric. All right, so I take 2 of these every day just because it's a good idea. It helps with brain health. It helps prevent cancer. It helps to reduce inflammation at every level in your body. If you've got shoulder, joint pain, knee pain, back pain, whatever pain, it's a natural anti-inflammatory, and it's got the most research behind it as far as cancer support. It also attacks those amyloid plaques. That picture that I showed you where the neurofibrils get entangled, it actually helps with that also. So great supplement, especially for brain health. Take at least 2 of these a day. The other thing that's important for brain health and body health, it doesn't matter what supplements you take or what food you eat, if you've got gut dysbiosis, which means your gut is not healthy, if you got leaky gut syndrome, or your gut health is just poor, especially if you take antibiotics or you have a lot of sugar and carbs, you got to rebuild it. You have to repopulate it. The flora in your gut is where not just your brain health, but your immune system comes from also. Did you know that? 80% of your immune system is from the lining of your gut. 90% of the serotonin, you know what the serotonin is, the neurotransmitter that makes you feel happy all the time? They used to think it was made in the brain. It's not. 90% of it is made in the gut. Yeah. So your feeling of well-being, so important, not to mention the absorption of all the nutrients that we're focusing on showing you how is so important, right? Which is impossible if your gut's in bad shape. So 1 of these a day, hugely important. Just 1 of these probiotic capsules every single day has to be a staple and a foundation in your system there. And then we talked about memory, loss, memory complaints, forgetting where you put your keys. Where did I put my phone? Where did I put my keys? What's his name again? Oh, yes, my grandson. What's their name again? So, all these things, when they start, we laugh about it. It's funny, but again, it for some of us, it could be a reality of something looming in the near future that we're trying to avoid. In this study, people who took with memory complaints who took EPA capsules for 6 months had almost double the reduction in errors on tests measuring learning and memory performance versus those who took a placebo. Placebo people had no change. People who took the EPA, DHA, saw double the reduction in the memory and learning performance. So a couple of these a day also. Everybody's a little bit different, but especially if you've got a lot of inflammation, the 2 supplements that we recommend who show high levels indicated on their C-reactive protein test, which is the marker for inflammation. We do the curcumin, and then we also do the EPA capsules because it's also natural anti-inflammatory. But bang for the buck, the question is what doesn't the EPA do? I mean, it lowers your blood pressure, triglycerides, prevents arrhythmia and blood clots, it fights cancer, depression, inflammation, fights off mental decline. So again, bang for the buck, one of the most important supplements, not just for your brain health, but for overall health. Can everybody see that? That's really important. Okay, so remember I told you there was 3 things that are causing inflammation. What was the first thing? Bad fats, right? What was the second thing? Sugar. Okay, and the third thing we said was toxins. So this is the most insidious, and this shows you that it's not just the toxins that we surround ourselves in our daily environment, it's also what's passed onto us in utero through the umbilical cord. When they test moms for 163 chemicals, 62 of them, a minimum of 90% of the women have at least 62% of these chemicals present, which they're passing through the cord. Many of these are cancer-causing toxins, and the three worst right here: lead, mercury, and what? Pesticides. Okay, so the first one, as far as the pesticides you need to be aware of, is glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup. How many of you have heard of GMO? Right? What does it stand for? Genetically modified organism. Why do they genetically modify it? So it can withstand the glyphosate. If you put glyphosate on your weeds outside, what happens? It kills it because it's not genetically modified. But if you want weeds or a crop to survive, you genetically modify it so it can hang on to that weed killer. It can survive with that weed killer and then pass it on to who? You and me. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. No thanks. Keep it to yourself, right? So here's, where do they put glyphosate on? Almost every crop, but primarily the most application of glyphosate is found in corn and soy. Corn and soy. What do you find in almost every drink and every bread and every product and every drive-through? Corn and soy. So this is not, again, not just coming through the uterus, through the placenta, to the babies that are born. They're not just born with it, they grow up in it. And studied back in 1989, which went to 2009, 20 years they did this study, with the application increasing of glyphosate, they noticed a correlation with deaths from senile dementia. You can see that red line going up correlating with the application of glyphosate. And you can see it was like almost 100% correlation. The more glyphosate that they put on crops, the more deaths from senile dementia were documented and diagnosed. So again, when we're talking about memory loss, dementia, Alzheimer's, this is a big part of it, guys. Big part of it. Because once it gets in your cells and in your brain, do you think it just comes out all by itself? No. These are not naturally occurring chemicals in nature. God didn't make these things. So when they go into your body, normally at the surface of the cell, there are receptors on the surface of the cells for everything that's naturally occurring in nature. Vitamins, right? Nutrients, hormones, everything has a receptor on the surface of the cell. When you have something artificial that was made in a laboratory that comes in, knocks on that cell door and says, "Hey, I want in." Cell's like, "Who are you? Where'd you come from? I know not who you are." So what does it do? Locks the door, makes it stay, camping out on the surface of the cell, and drives inflammation. Until the surface of the cell wall, the integrity of the cell wall, is destroyed, disrupted to where now it can actually penetrate and get inside the cell. And this is where things go bad. And your body cannot repair and regenerate itself fully until you not only get rid of the toxin, but you also repair and regenerate the cell membrane and restore something called methylation, which is the detoxification inside the cell. And all this gets shut down. It gets shut down and it's impaired for years and decades. And we wind up with all these symptoms and we start treating ourselves with all these different drugs. And this has been in most of our kids and our bodies and our brains for the longest period of time. So this is where it is. The cows, they feed the cows corn and soy with GMO. They feed the chickens with corn and soy GMO. They feed the fish corn and soy, right? Potatoes, they use the canola oils, GMO, high fructose, everything. Like I said, guys, it's ubiquitous. It's hard to find foods that don't have corn and soy. So if you buy anything corn, soy, what do you have to make sure it says? No GMO, yeah. That's really important. So that's the first toxin. The second toxin is lead. So these metals, one of them is lead. Again, where does lead come from? Well, we don't have lead. We don't have lead in our gasoline anymore. We don't have lead in our paint anymore, right? But many of us grew up in a house where it was just painted over, and the lead's still there. Many of us, we're unaware of the fact that there was lead, running through your parents when they were, when your mom was pregnant with you, and it went through the umbilical cord into you. It got passed down into you, and that's what studies are showing. It gets passed down through the generations. lead gets stored in the bones. All right, lead's in the water supply. It's in your lipstick. It's in a lot of the cosmetics that you have. They did a study. They took 33 lipsticks. 20 out of the 33 had elevated lead levels in them. You wouldn't think that. You're like, lead. Think of ancient Roman civilization. What happened to them? They all went mad. That's how the whole thing fell. What did they line the aqueducts with? Lead shields, right? So we know that it causes big problems with the brain. And what I'm trying to tell you is that it stays in our body. It gets stored away in the bones. And when do the bones release the lead? When you go through hormonal changes. When you're pregnant, gets released into the system, into the baby. Right? When an individual goes through puberty, hormonal changes, gets released from the bones into the body. And when a lady goes through menopause, gets released again into the body. That's why we have drug-resistant hypertension, because of lead, right? So as we age, we go through these certain times where it starts to affect us again, and it's not coming out of the body unless you're specifically addressing it. So again, these are all the things that it causes: heart disease, high blood pressure, Alzheimer's, weight gain, weight loss resistance. So we have lead. The other metal is what? Mercury. Where does mercury come in the form of? One of them is thimerosal. How many of you guys were immunized as a child? I had a bunch of them. And then, the kids today, it's not like when I was a kid, I had like 3, right? Now today, the kids get 80 different immunizations. 80 of them by the time they're 5 years old. And in the immunizations and in flu shots, they have something called thimerosal. And don't let the doctors fool you. You ask to see the box, especially in the flu shots and these childhood shots. You look at it, there's thimerosal, it's a preservative. So they have mercury in that. So we grow up with that, starts accumulating in our cells, and then we go to the dentist when we have cavities, and what do? They make amalgam fillings, which is 50%, 50% mercury. So I'm gonna play this for a minute so that you can see this clip if you've never seen it before. They're gonna show you basically what happens when you start messing with an amalgam filling, how the mercury leaches off the filling, and where those mercury vapors go. Actually, let me turn this volume up. That would probably be a good idea so you can hear it. You do want to hear it, right? Okay.
Is mercury vapor coming off a 25-year-old silver amalgam filling in an extracted tooth. The background is a phosphorescent screen. The mercury vapor absorbs the fluorescent light, and you can see it as a shadow on the screen. This is mercury coming off a filling that was dipped in water that's the same temperature as the human body. This is a filling that was rubbed with a pencil eraser for just a few seconds. Like going to the hygienist and having her clean your teeth. These are not small amounts of mercury. If you can see it, it's more than 1,000 times higher than the Environmental Protection Agency will allow for the air that we breathe. What about the last time you went to the dentist and they drilled on your tooth? Here is the mercury vapor every time you raise the temperature to 110 degrees with hot coffee or warm water, or even chewed on it. Mercury comes off fillings every time you stimulate them, and that stimulation causes the mercury to continue to leak out of the fillings for an hour and a half at a minimum.
Is that important? Yeah. So again, the whole point of this is, where is that going? It's leaching into your body and into your brain, and it's contributing to memory loss, dementia, leads to Alzheimer's disease. The more of this that you have going on, the faster it happens. So these are important factors. Dementia now striking people in their 40s, from mercury as a causative factor, and resulting in degenerative brain disease. So early signs. So we live in this toxic soup. I always say the question is not, are you toxic? The question is what? How toxic are you? There's toxins everywhere, and it's not just like in the outside. It's not like our outdoor environment with the smog and the pollution. The EPA says our indoor environment is 2 to 5 times more toxic than our outdoor environment. We take prescription medications which are toxic. We have immunizations, like I said. We've got your soap, your shampoo, your toothpaste, all has sodium lauryl sulfate, Cal, which is basically a sudsing agent, soaping agent, right? Also known to cause cancer-causing effects. What's in our water? We talked about that. Lead gets in your pillows, in your mattresses, in your furniture. formaldehyde and different types of cancer-causing chemicals that they use. When you open a brand new MacBook or an iPhone, it's got bromide, and these things are, just super toxic, off the charts. So, and then you got mold, right, biotoxins. So all these toxins are getting into your body, right? And you got more coming in than your body can actually get out. What happens? You start experiencing symptoms. That's like water going into a bucket, and you got more and more water going, and then what happens? All of a sudden it starts to overflow. And when your cells start to overflow because of toxic overload, that's when you start feeling the symptoms. And those symptoms could range differently from person to person. High or low blood pressure, dizziness, digestive problems, weight loss resistance, inability to handle stress, fatigue, brain fog, headaches. Is this sounding familiar? Right? Trouble sleeping, insomnia, depression, mood changes, muscle, joint pain. These are all classic signs of toxicity. Did you know that? And we've seen these different symptoms, and many of us have tried to address them in different ways. And that's fine if it helps the symptoms, but if it's not correcting the actual cause of those symptoms, then what happens? It continues to be an ongoing problem until you actually get to the root of it, the cause of it, and you get the culprit out. Then you see a whole different level of health and function with your body. So how do you correct the cause of this? If I said that the toxins camp out at the surface of the cell, right? They destroy the integrity of the cell. What is the cell membrane made up of? Fat, a very delicate substance, right? And at the surface of the cell, that's where is coordinated the receptors to take in, like I said, the vitamins, like vitamin A, vitamin D, the hormones, like insulin has receptors on the cell to pull the sugar in, right? And then you have the hormones like estrogen, and you have testosterone, and then you have thyroid, and you have all these hormones. Hormonal regulation, nutritional regulation to get in the cell so that your cells can actually use it depends on the integrity of the cell wall, right? And what's damaging it? What are the three things? What are the three things that we said are damaging it? Sugar, toxins, and what? And bad fats. Because what does it cause at the surface of the cell? It causes what? Inflammation. Very good. All right, so the cell integrity is destroyed. Now we have inflammation. The cell's on fire. Our brain is on fire, okay? Houston, we are down for the count. Now, what's going on inside the cell? Because the good stuff can't get in. There's nutritional deprivation, right? There's hormonal deficiencies. There's hormonal dysregulation. And then on top of that, now we have toxicity inside the cell. And when you have toxicity inside the cell, what does it do to the DNA? Changes it. Remember the levers on the DNA? You're turning on the disease-promoting genes, and you're turning off the Alzheimer's fighting genes. That's how this works, guys, at the cellular level. And they've done this in studies. They gave mice in a study the agouti gene. And what they did was they introduced with the agouti gene to promote that gene, which is a weight-gaining gene, in the mice. Are you with me right now? You got this? So all they did, these two groups of mice, there was a control group and the regular group, that they were exercising, both of them on the treadmill. They had the same diet, right? But this one group, they introduced a particular toxin. And that toxin pulled the trigger on the agouti gene, which caused the coat to become yellowish on the mice, and it also caused them to gain excessive weight. And that's what happened. Within the next few days, they started to blow up. The next few weeks, they gained even more fat. And then those mice had offspring, the one that they changed genetically, and guess what the offspring produced? Same exact thing. So they didn't change anything. They didn't introduce anything to the offspring, and they automatically were born with the same yellowish coat and the same obesity genes. So this stuff goes down generations, like I said, just by flipping the epigenetic tags on there. So the only way to fix this is to what? reduce the inflammation, restore cellular function, get the cells starting to detoxify themselves, because basically it's shut down. Everything is shut down there. Restore methylation, restore cell function, restore the function of the membrane. And that has to be done intentionally. You can't just like take a pill to do that or eat foods to do that. There has to be a special restorative process. And I know this because I've done it myself. And there's a big difference between like just like a cleanse or a juice fast and what I'm about to talk about. So I'm going to give you 2 recommendations here. So this first one is for those of you who are serious, who really want to get down on a deep cellular level, and you know that you've got a lot of work to do, that you've never done a serious detox before. Maybe you've done a colon cleanse, but this isn't anything like that. A colon cleanse cannot get metals out of your brain, cannot get these toxins out of your body or your brain. So to go through this process, the first thing you have to do is a preparation phase. For the first 30 days, you're restoring normal cellular integrity, you're reducing the inflammation, you're restoring methylation with the cell, and then you're also preparing the detox pathways, the liver, the colon, and you're preparing your body to detox. The second 30 days, the body phase, this is where you're actually starting to move the toxins out of the cells. There's a pressure gradient that's created with the supplements to actually mobilize the stored toxins out of the cells, out of your body. And then when it leaves your body, where does it go? Into the colon. And then from the colon, where does it need to go? Into the toilet. And if you don't have the proper binders to mop up all those toxins that have just been pulled out of your cells, where does it go? Right back into your body, back into your liver, and circulate it all over again. So it has to be done precisely, perfectly, based on what I'm telling you. And then the last 30 days is the brain phase. This is where the magic happens. This is where the hormonal regulation is restored by way of the pituitary gland, and everything, all those toxins that have been stored up for years are being pulled out of your brain and your body, and you're finally able to sleep. You're finally waking up day after day with energy like you haven't had since you're a teenager. You're finally having more and more of those good days where you feel good and healthy and clear and happy, because now all the cells are working properly. They can produce the energy that they're supposed to. The genes are working the way they're supposed to. Your body's expressing health the way it was created to, and there's nothing in the way of it, no toxins impairing it. Is this making sense?
Yep.
So this program that I'm talking about, I'm actually finishing right now. This is the 3rd time I've done it since 2018. I'll do it like once a year or so. And I can tell you there's nothing like this. I've done detox programs before, but there's nothing as easy and as effective and objectively factual, so that you not only feel the difference, but you can see the difference on tests like this. Like I said, I'll give you another recommendation. If this is like over the top, too much for you, you don't think this is for you, I'll show you what else to do. But if you're serious about it and you want to see the best results predictably, hands down, this is what you want to consider doing if you're a candidate for it. So that's the prep phase. You get a box of those. You take a packet of supplements in the morning and a packet in the evening. At the end of the 30 days, you get retested so that you could see the difference in your toxicity levels coming down. Now, you definitely feel the difference. But again, you don't want to guess. You want to what? Test. Second 30 days, you're going through the body phase. Now we're starting to pull the toxins out of your body. There's 3 different packets that you take, morning, noon, and then one before you go to sleep. Then you get retested again after that period of time. Then you go into the brain phase, the final phase of the 90 days. And like I said, you have different packets, and you take them different times of the day, and this is how your body is actually pulling the toxins out of the brain. It's crossing the blood-brain barrier. And that's how that works. Now, these are the tests that we use to identify, number 1, if you're a candidate for the program, and number 2, how we follow up to make sure that the program is working for you. These tests will tell us not only if you're toxic, but how toxic are you. There's 2 ways of telling. One is the meta-oxy test, which is a urine test. That's the one on the left. And it's a urine test. Basically, we mix with a reagent. So we give you the kit, you go into the restroom, you mix a little bit of urine with it, and it comes out of some shade of purple. And we put it on the chart, and the redder you are, the more toxic that you are. And that's something that does change for the better when you start pulling the toxins out, and that's what we see progressively. But to start with, that'll tell us where you're at on the chart in the grand scheme of things. See the thing on the right there? That's an eye chart, basically, but it doesn't have letters on it, it has lines. because when you're toxic, it affects the optic nerve and your ability to see fine visual acuity. And so that means that there are lines going in different directions, and if you're really toxic, you're not able to discern those lines at a certain point. So it's really interesting how this works, and you'd be surprised at how accurate this is. So those tests basically are a good place to start if you're curious and you even remotely think that this is something that would help you. Then you want to make an appointment with Deborah tonight, because normally these tests are about $300, but if you make the appointment tonight here because of the workshop, that special is only $97. So you have to see Deborah before you leave tonight, and that'll tell you your level of toxicity. She'll tell you more about the program and whether or not you're a candidate for you. And I'll tell you, it's worked wonders for me. I love it. I would recommend it for most people. So if that is not an option for you, then this is something that's less intense. This is really more of a daily detox, a daily low-level cleanse that really just helps to boost liver effectiveness. Phase 2 detox, phase 2 liver detox, focusing something on called N-acetylcysteine. Have you ever heard of N-acetylcysteine before? Most of us probably haven't, but that's one of the nutritional supplements that we use to help your body make glutathione. Glutathione is the master antioxidant in your body and your cells, and it helps to recycle all the other antioxidants, which helps with what? Detoxification, right? So it helps to support with detoxification at a much lower level. Now again, this is something that I do every day because this is just the shake that I have after I work out. It's got 26 grams of protein, very low sugar. It's a great breakfast supplement, right, Cal? And you can have it with, it's got a full spectrum of multivitamin in it, antioxidants, and many of you guys are doing this right now. And it's great because it keeps your blood sugar stable, Chris, right? And you just have 2 scoops of that. You have a little scoop of almond butter, low sugar foods like berries, and you're good until lunch. And that is what we call the breakfast of champions. But I also like it because it keeps your liver healthy and it keeps your body's ability to detox at a low level strong. So that's why I'm recommending this. Gives you a couple of options as far as making application with what you learned tonight. Didn't I say that before? That's what I told you. It's not what you learn, it's what are you going to do to apply what you're learning. Because there's not one person in here that's not affected by what we're talking about. The question is, are you being proactive to the level that you need to be to take your health to the next level? So, Broken Brain Resources, the supplement suites, 15% discount. We only discount on the night of the workshops to enable you to take advantage of this. There's limited supplies, but all the supplements that I talked about tonight, 15% off when you buy them all together. So there's limited quantities, but you can see them at the front desk, and that'll help you make application. The last thing that I want to address here, very briefly before we finish. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Say yes.
Yes.
Punch your neighbor in the shoulder, say, wake up. Okay. All right.
I can do that.
This is pretty cool. I had a patient in the office that had the same type of thing going on today. I want you to watch this.
This is what I do to try to keep my brain sharp during the day. I've got these puzzles, and it helps me to just try to remember things, colors and where things go. I knew I was missing a couple pieces. The doctor actually told me that this would actually be good for me to help keep my brain sharp and functioning, because at times it tends to wander.
Jim McMahon is 56 years old. He now spends most of his time in his Scottsdale, Arizona home, where the dry desert air best suits his long list of post-football aches and pains.
This is my daily routine. What am I doing? What am I looking for?
But what the climate can't combat are the symptoms associated with brain trauma McMahon suffered as a player.
Bad headaches, pressure on my skull. I couldn't see very well. I couldn't talk very well. All I wanted to do was lay down, because my head was just constantly pounding. The pain had gotten so bad where if I had had a gun, I wouldn't have been here. And these 2 doctors from New York called me and said, hey, we think we can help you. We think we know what's going on. So let's do it.
Jim was diagnosed with early onset dementia. He had been complaining about a brain fog, as he described it, as well as he described it, a headache where he felt like ice picking on both sides of his brain.
While most concussion studies are focused on the brain, McMahon's team traces the effects of CTE directly to the upper spine, having found that neck misalignment can block the flow of spinal fluid and pool toxic proteins directly onto the brain.
Spinal fluid is white. That's the spinal cord. This is the spinal column. What you're seeing is a narrowing of the opening where the spinal fluid is supposed to come through.
Most times when you're having head problems, that's all they look at is the head. These guys are smart enough to at least look below the head at the neck and see if there was a problem somewhere. They found my problem. They're not going to be able to reverse the damage. Like I said, that stuff was sitting in there for 20 years. So how much it ate away at my brain, I don't know.
Look at the MRI after he gets an
Using
adjustment.
detailed images captured by the MRI scans, McMahon regularly receives targeted adjustments, clearing the blockage and restoring the flow of spinal fluid.
This instrument is going to generate a gentle mechanical tapping that is just lightly going to hit those bones where they continue for vision. Okay. Going to sit back up.
First time they did this procedure, within 2 minutes, it was like the toilet flush. I could feel this stuff actually leaving my brain. My eyes cleared up, my speech cleared up.
The left is before, the right is after. So you see how much there is there? See how there's less in here? Instead of all this white stuff being there, you're seeing more brain tissue than fluid. So it's already started to drain. Over the next several days, it'll improve on.
Well, the damage is done, it's done. I can't reverse that. But what these guys do for me, they keep me from having these bad pains, having these suicidal thoughts, having me function fairly normally while I can't.
So what did they say? It said spinal blockage can block the cerebrospinal fluid from the brain down into the body and pull toxic proteins on the brain, causing what? Dementia. What are they talking about? They're talking about subluxation, when the bones shift out of alignment from what? Football, trauma. Yeah. So we've all gone through that. I mean, multiple misalignments in our spine, out of alignment, causing toxic proteins to build on our brain. But like he said, he wished he would have met these guys 20 years ago and he could have prevented it. What did I say at the beginning of the program tonight? You need to take action now. Like you've got this stuff going on now, because most of us do. Most of us do. It's not like wait and we'll see. By the time it's detected, it's too late. It's way too late. So I mean, thank goodness these doctors reached out to him. But you know, when I was the chiropractor for the arena football team, these were 20-something-year-old kids. When I went into the coach, I'm like, listen, we need to get these guys tuned up every single week before they go out onto the field, so they've got maximum brain-body communication, so that they're firing on all cylinders. Maximum performance, strength, speed, coordination, agility. And guess what? They went the distance. They won that season. And so every team now, every football team now, has a chiropractor. Unfortunately, it's under the auspices of the physical trainer and the medical doctor, and they're used just for injury prevention, but they need to be doing it preventatively, like most of you in the room are, for maximum health. Does that make sense? Yes. So you've seen this, on the left side, on the right side there, you see how the brain controls all the functions in the different parts of the body. When the spine shifts out of alignment, it interferes with the brain and its communication there, and can lead to all types of different problems. In the neck, at that top level, where he was having the ice picking and the dementia, that's the area that controls the blood supply to the head. Headaches, nervousness, insomnia, head colds, high blood pressure, migraines, nervousness, breakdowns, and amnesia, dizziness. Hello? We see a lot of that, right? And so that's very simple cause, very simple fix, if it's found and corrected in time. Thyroid glands, you have your spleen, your adrenals, your kidneys, your large intestines. All these, by the way, have to do with your body and its ability to function and detox properly. And if you're subluxated and you've got these toxins coming in also, that's adding what? Insult to injury. And so I always say eat good and exercise and do all these things, but you know what? If you've got blockages, multiple blockages between your brain and your body, interfering with neurological connection, communication, and function, it's all for naught. It's all for naught. Severely limited. I'm sure he had a great diet and lifestyle, but he was majorly subluxated, and none of that changed until he got what? His adjustment, right? So subluxations need to be taken seriously. Subluxations are like a piranha in a fish tank. When do you want that out? like now, as soon as possible. You don't want to wait for any problems. You get checked regularly, like you go to the dentist to prevent cavities. You get checked regularly because you want to stay safe, healthy, and at your best. And that's what we look for. Now, you see that pinched nerve in the middle there? Does that look painful? Is it painful all the time?
Nope.
No. Only 6% of that nerve feels pain. What percent? 6%. The other 94% of that nerve goes where? To all the organs. So most people on planet Earth are walking around with that condition. They just don't what? Feel it. Just like you can walk around with cancer or a cavity, not feel it. And studies show it can be shutting down vital nerve supply to important organs and tissues, causing sickness and disease. And when should that be fixed? After it's there or before? Yeah, the most important thing is before. Prevention, prevention, prevention. So I say this, for those of you who are guests tonight, if you have a chiropractor, make sure that you're not just getting your neck cracked and popped and not getting follow-up exams. You know, just don't pop and pray, as they say. You know, you get adjusted and then you do interim examinations to see that you not only feel better, but your body's actually functioning properly. How do you know if you have nerve interference or not? By doing thermography and x-rays if necessary. You know, tests don't lie. I don't care how good a person feels. They're no good if they drop dead 5 minutes from now. You know, so you want to feel good, but you also want to make sure that your body is functioning at its highest level, building health and not disease. And you can't guess with that. You have to test. And the way we test is with thermography and x-ray. So if you're having any of these symptoms, fatigue, tiredness, insomnia, poor sleep, chronic colds, flus, sinus trouble, allergies, if you're under my care, you already have this. You need to look at more detoxing, all right? But if you're a guest here and you've got any of these issues, or even if you don't, if you want to make sure that you want to be preventative, like let's say you have no symptoms or no problems, and you get a scan and it looks like that on the left, and there's all red all over. Is that good or bad? Everybody says it's bad. It's good, right, Jim? Why is it good? Because if we can catch the development of the disease and nip it in the bud and fix it before it rears its ugly head, what's that worth? I mean, if that's shutting down nerves going to your prostate and it could lead to prostate cancer and you prevent that, isn't that better than radiation or
Yeah.
Of course. It's priceless. And that's the value that I put on these tests, whether you're a patient, that I always continue to do them regularly, regardless of how long you're under care, or if you're a new patient. We sit down, like if as a new patient, you'll sit down, right then, we sit down, we do a consultation, find out your history, health history, and then we'll go into the examination room, and we'll check your posture, we'll do the thermal scan, range of motion. If things don't look right, we'll take x-rays, and we put that all together, everything together. And then we figure out what we can or what we can't do to help. Now, wherever you're at, whatever that report is. Now, normally, that's about $360 worth of service. But if you are a guest here tonight, there's something called a health pass that we can offer you, which is a gift that we do that for only $97. And we're happy to do that for you on behalf of the person that brought you in. But that's available tonight for you if you would like. See Deborah before you leave, and she can make that appointment for you. So that's how you can make application with everything that you just learned, and then we put that all together. All right, so basically, you got a lot tonight, yes or yes? Did you learn something important? All right, so how do we make application? Make sure you get dialed in for Heart Smart Nutrition next month, right? Put it in your calendar. Get on your brain-boosting nutrition supplements. If you need an appointment for detox testing or the supplements, see them up front. Like I said, there's limited supplies for the supplements and limited appointments available. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys. God bless.